Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's Mary. Today I want to introduce to you this book called Lee Jae-myung, Revolutionize the Republic of Korea. After having read this book 3 times myself, what first came to my mind was I knew that Lee Jae-myung, who is the leader of the current opposition party of South Korea, I knew that Lee Jae-myung had 4 criminal charges, but did I know how extremely and dangerously leftist he is? In his book, Lee Jae-myung writes all sorts of things, ranging from the U.S. withdrawal of troops from South Korea, shortening military service from 18 months to 10 months, and even the dissolution of large corporations in South Korea. And so, through this terrifying book, the reason why I'm filming this episode in both Korean and English, is because I really do hope that Koreans, not only inland but also overseas, and also the international public, the general public, the global audience as well, we all come to know of who Lee Jae-myung is, the true nature of Lee Jae-myung through this book that he himself wrote. And so before we dive into this episode, if you haven't liked this video, please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you won't miss another good episode. Alright, so to introduce to you this book very briefly first, this book was published 7 years ago in 2017. 2017 was the year when the impeachment of President Park Geun-hye reached its peak. At that time, Lee Jae-myung, along with previous President Moon Jae-in, was preparing for the Democratic Party's presidential primary. And it was during this time when Lee Jae-myung wrote this book to introduce himself to the general public, what his policies are, what his ideology is, and all sorts of unwelcome things. But the problem is not only the existence of this book, the existence of Lee Jae-myung, but also that no one knew about this book. But very fortunately enough, about 5 to 6 months before the past general election, which was held on October 10th in South Korea, Pastor Chun Kwang-hoon, who is the head pastor of Saranjeil Church in South Korea, and who is an active political activist, these patriotic movements all across the country, he has brought this book to public attention. And that is how I too came to know of this book. And so I very much thank Pastor Chun Kwang-hoon for bringing this book to belated public attention. And the content of this book, I've read it 3 times myself, but to briefly summarize, there are 3 key points that Lee Jae-myung dives into. The first being withdrawal of U.S. troops. Second, federalized unification. I will explain what that means later. And dissolution of large corporations. And all these 3 are very against the standing foundational pillars of our country, which are liberal democracy, free market economy, U.S. ROK alliance, and Christianity-based nation building. These are the 4 pillars by which President Lee Jae-myung, our founding father, established this country. And Lee Jae-myung, the current leader of the opposition party, with more than half, basically the majority of Congress seats, his ideology, his policies are all against these pillars, which have given us so much prosperity for the past 70 years, ever since our nation was first founded. And this is a very big threat to the existence of South Korea, and we're going to explain why that is a big threat. Alright, so the second key point that the book mentions of is this idea of federalized unification. In introducing federalized unification, Lee Jae-myung says this very famous quote in this book. On page 143 it reads, "No matter how expensive and dirty peace is, dirty peace is better than one war." This is very, very self-contradictory for one reason. The best way to refute this point is bringing up the Latin adage. There's a very famous Latin adage that goes, "Si vis pacem, para bellum." This is translated into English as, "If you want peace, prepare for war." Adapted from a statement found in the Roman author Renatus' tract, this Latin adage speaks a lot on how to operate military, on how to prepare for war in order to achieve peace. How do you achieve peace? It is not by putting our guns down, putting our military command down, our military authority down. It is only through making sure we have a strong ally, making sure we have good national defense, military defense, by which we achieve peace. And so this Latin adage, centuries ago, by this Roman Empire, the greatest empire of all time, and especially its Renatus. Renatus was an absolute expert in military, Roman military and war. If he says this, I don't know what Lee Jae-myung has to speak in contradictory ways. Dirty peace better than one war? This makes no sense. Alright, so just I want to read to you page 146. This is the most direct statement that he mentions of in reference to the idea of federalized unification. Page 146. As a specific example, the Korea Institute for National Unification predicted that if the Inter-Korean Economic Cooperation Project agreed upon at the October 4th, 2007 North-South Joint Declaration was successfully promoted, Korea could see an economic effect of up to 55 trillion won. Alright, so in the book, although Lee Jae-myung does not directly mention federalized unification, the term federalized unification, his mention of this October 4th North-South Joint Declaration is basically synonymous to saying federalized unification for the following reasons, and I'm going to explain why. Number one, the October 4th North-South Joint Declaration in 2007, which was signed between South Korean President Roh Moo-hyun and North Korean dictator Kim Jong-il, must be understood by two more joint declarations, one that preceded it and one that succeeded it. The one that preceded it, the first ever joint declaration that was signed in modern history between the North and South, is the June 15th Joint Declaration in 2000 between Kim Dae-jung of South Korea and Kim Jong-il of North Korea. And the second one is what Lee Jae-myung mentions here, October 4th, 2007. And the third is the April 27th Panmunjom Joint Declaration in 2018, which is very recent, only like 6 years ago, between President Moon Jae-in and dictator Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And these joint declarations are basically all the same content. They are all talking of the same thing. They're just reconfirmations of the same thing. And so we need to look at the first one then, because the first one is basically the one succeeding it are all reconfirmations of the first. So we're going to look at the first. What is the first joint declaration, the one that was signed in 2000, June 15, 2000? What is it talking of? So to understand, I want to read the first two paragraphs of the June 15th Joint Declaration. It reads, South and North Korea agreed to resolve the issue of national unification independently by working together with our people who are the owners of the country. There you go, the word independently working together. People on the left, leftists in South Korea, they're of a bit different nature than those in America. And that leftists in South Korea, you have to add this component of pro-North Korean tendency. They're pro-North Korea. They're pro-Juche ideology. They're pro-North Korean communism. They're pro-Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-il, Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un. And so, independently working together, there you go, the word again. Okay, second paragraph, it reads, South and North Korea recognize that the South's union proposal for national unification and the North's low-level federal proposal, this is talking of low-level federalism, low-level federalized unification, had something in common and agreed to pursue unification in this direction going forward. So what does this mean? Or I want to explain this briefly. It's very simple. It's not that too difficult to understand. In this joint declaration, between Kim Dae-jung and Kim Jong-un, there comes this idea of low-level federalism. Low-level federalism is very well explained in a booklet that was written by President Kim Dae-jung himself. And in this packet, in this booklet that he wrote, it refers to this idea of having one nation, one country, two systems, and two autonomous governments. All right, so what this means is, yes, we're one nation, we're of one country, but why don't we start this unification process of having two systems, two autonomous governments, one in South Korea, one in North Korea. All right, let's review this. First of all, to begin with, federalism between two countries of completely different political systems is absolutely impossible. The reason why, I mean, sure, they're benchmarking the US, but the reason why the United States stands strong even with federalism is because all 50 states, we share the same political system, liberal democracy, free market economy. That's why this idea of federalism is possible. And that is why the US still exists today. But the problem here with this South and North Korean low-level federalism, this unification proposal, is that communism and liberal democracy cannot coexist. Is this possible? Can they coexist? What do you think? Is this possible? Never. Coexistence is not possible. Eventually, in due time, one or the other will end up taking over the other. And history has taught us, as I previously mentioned, that the one that takes over always ends up being the one with the stronger ideology, those on the left. So basically, in our case, communism in North Korea will take over liberal democracy of South Korea. And secondly, this goal of low-level federalism, it's just the beginning proposal. Once low-level federalism is executed in South Korea, the goal of this is not to remain at a low level of federalism, but to gradually advance to a higher level, raising it up to a higher degree of federalism, ultimately bringing complete unification through not liberal democracy, but communism. And so low-level federalism, the three presidents, we call them leftist presidents among the right wing, being first Kim Dae-jung, second Roh Moo-hyun, third Moon Jae-in, and fourth, thank goodness he wasn't elected the past presidential election. But he is a highly likely candidate running for the next presidential election in 2027. Alright, so federal unification, at the end, it means unification by communist absorption. And so we need to be aware of this. And so that sums up the final point of what Lee Jae-myung says. And so as I end today's episode, there is a saying that comes to my mind. The saying goes, foolish citizens choose foolish politicians, and competent citizens choose competent politicians. The 3 points of this terrifying book, US withdrawal, federalized unification, and dissolution of large corporations. I hope that through this terrifying book, that all South Koreans come to the realization, both inland and overseas, of Lee Jae-myung's dangerous leftist ideology in due time, so that we are able to protect our mother country at all costs. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you won't miss another good episode. See you next time.